Hello, I'm Kent Schuff.
And I'm Steve Finnemore.
I'm Dave Franklin.
And we own Vera Maes Bistro here in downtown Muncie. We opened in November of '99, so it'll be 21 years this coming November. I had attended Ball State, graduated, never left, slowly got back into the restaurant business, growing up in my grandmother's restaurant, Vera, hence the name Vera Maes, and then May is my mother's middle name, Vera's daughter. And so I'd been in the business for many years, and then decided in '96 to purchase a piece of real estate here in downtown, and ended up opening the restaurant in November of '99, like I'd said before. And then in 2001, and that started just on the smaller side, 209, and then in 2001, then Steve and I bought the building that we're in now, which was the old Ballard Hardware Store, had been for almost 100 years, from 1895 until 1982, and then it was vacant until we bought it in 2001. So we went from 54 seats. I can never remember that. It's 50 something. 54 seats to 210. And that's if we were maxed out. And that does not include the outside, which seats about 30-ish, something like that. And then Dave has been with us since,
2001.
2001,
It's a
okay.
great year for Vera Maes.
So about 19 years Dave's been with us. So it's been a good ride. We're extremely fortunate. We have been well received here in the community, but we also, I think it's important to give back to the community as well. It's a give and take, and so it's really kind of a basic concept, but it has worked for us.
I can remember when one of Kent's statements was, when the restaurant first opened, if you were downtown after dark, you're probably up to no good. There was only a couple places that had lights on after dark, and so it was a bit of a gamble back then.
Yeah, it was. There were two places. After 5 o'clock, there was the Herat was open, and the Mark, and that truly, I can't think of anything else that was open after 5 o'clock. And so then when we opened, it was, and people, I'd tell people, like, okay, we're gonna open up this restaurant downtown, and they'd be like, ooh, downtown. And it wasn't a high crime area. It was just kind of, 80% of everything was vacant, and it was just kind of could be a little seedy at times. And but since then, so I would like to think that we have been, I think at times we've been given too much credit for the revitalization of downtown. Now we take that as a high compliment, and I would certainly like to think that we've been a part of that. But I think what it perhaps did was show to other people that were potentially thinking about opening a business downtown is that you actually could open a business downtown, and as long as you do it well, you can be successful. So, but there's been, you can't even compare, from 20 years ago.
Not at all.
It's just, and especially the restoration of all the storefronts. We're very fortunate. This 4 blocks, most everything is still intact.
Even the cityscape, even the streetscape has dramatically
absolutely.
changed since
Absolutely.
then. So we used to have a plaza system where it was intended to slow people down, and it just gave rise to just all kinds of nooks and crannies for whatever. Like we said, it was vacant down here. When I went to college in the mid '80s, people were like, downtown, but that was the height of downtowns in general being just run down. So.
Yeah, Muncie it wasn't a unique problem. There were many cities, Anderson, prime example. My hometown, Huntington, they put in a plaza too. So that was very, very popular in the early '70s when the malls were going in. And so downtowns were thinking, oh my God, what do we do to compete with the malls? So they were making these pedestrian malls, which in theory sounds like a good idea, but it was not. And so those businesses that were left down here, I think ended up closing, because then people could get, still park a damn mile from the door at the mall, but the mall was the big thing, so. But we always had the good jewelers always stayed downtown, and the attorneys, but So, but yeah, it's been, and even after this current COVID situation, I think that, just kind of throwing everybody for a loop, but I think that, I think downtown will either has survived or will come back shortly. So we're very optimistic.
The biggest thing that I've always said that I think we were bringing to the table was to add normalcy to who we were. We were just a couple of guys that were trying to make a living running a restaurant. We just happened to also be a couple. And for the most part, Muncie, I think, really accepted it much better than a lot of people thought they would, because we're a college town. A lot of those folks come from bigger towns, or they've been traveling to bigger cities, and they've seen other places that have a couple guys running a restaurant or a business that were also a couple. And so I think it really, Muncie embraced, I think, us more than a lot of folks thought they would. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure there are those people
but
that don't come in because of that, but we don't know them. Right. And our clientele has been very accepting.
But I don't think they embraced us, and I'm not saying you're implying that, but I don't think they embraced us because we are a gay couple or whatever. I think they embraced us because hopefully we have run a good restaurant. Right. And it just so happens that we are gay. It's never been, our sexuality has never been an issue with Vera Maes. It doesn't take you too long to figure it out. And I'm sure, like Steve said, I'm sure that there are people that do not come in here because of who we are. Mm-hmm. And I've always been okay with that. It's not something I like to hear, but it happens, So, so in spite of that, we've done well.
We weren't going to change for that.
Right. We've been, the only backlash we have probably ever even gotten was just kind of maybe our political stance and the stance against our ex-governor and now vice president. We were pretty vocal about that, and there were people that came out in not retaliation necessarily, but opposition to our thoughts. So again, and we really do try to separate those things. Kent and Steve and Dave, we have our personal beliefs, but we really do try to separate that from Vera Maes. But sometimes that's difficult, especially on Facebook. But we've been extremely fortunate. There are wonderful people here in this community. We have been well supported. We have some wonderful friends, customers. So we're happy.
Yeah.
There's probably 5 or 6 years ago, there was a couple, a female couple that were in, and it was obvious that it was prom, and it was obvious that they were, a couple, and I think we had 3 tables secretly fighting over who was going to pay for their meal, and that was just like, it really was kind of emotional for me. I thought it was, that was, I don't know, it was great to see, and now, every prom, there we get. Well, I'm not saying a ton, but it is not out of the ordinary. And our other diners, they don't even miss a beat. Nobody even pays attention, or if they do pay attention, it's in a positive way, not in a negative way. So now, would you find that out on a restaurant on McGill? I don't know. Hopefully, it would be the same, but I don't know. I think it just kind of depends on kind of the clientele you attract too. So
I've said this before. We did another thing about Black and Queer, and my vibe has always been, just in general in life, has been that I realize the power that I have just by being 54 and being alive. I have a lot of contemporaries. I went to a lot of funerals in the 90s, and so that set us back. So it's nice to see this age that we live in, where I can be a role model and not even think twice about it. That's a lot of pressure sometimes for some people. Mm-hmm. But we are, but because we stand here, and that's a good feeling. That's a good. That makes you wake up in the morning and go, you know what? It was all worth that.
Yep.
It's all worth it. So, happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Jazz hands.
Jazz
Come on,
hands.
Snappy.
Spirit fingers.